Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of 31 Nights of Horror. Today we're talking about a horror movie that was one of the highest grossing movies of 1976, and of course we're going to be talking about The Omen. I really love this movie and I'm really excited to get talking about it. It's about this American diplomat who is based in England at the time, and his wife delivers a stillborn child, and he doesn't want his wife to go through the loss of a child. She was really excited for this kid. He was really excited for this kid, and he adopts this baby that he really knows nothing of. No family, no mother, just nothing. Baby comes out of the blue, and it turns out a couple of years later that he's like the spawn of the devil. So that's essentially the plot of this movie. It's pretty crazy and I'm excited to get right into it. Before I get started talking about the fun facts, the history, my thoughts, my review, please let me know what you guys think about this movie down below because I'd love to hear it. So this movie came out in June of 1976, and at the time I feel like there was almost like an obsession with demonic, satanic, religious horror movies, because we had the great success of Rosemary's Baby at the late 60s. Then we had The Exorcist in 73 that was a wildly huge success both with the critics and the audience. And then we have this movie, The Omen, which was actually a really great commercial success but wasn't that popular with the critics at the time. But people who watched it thought it was really great, as it ended up being one of the top grossing movies of that year. And although it had a huge commercial success, it actually had a bit of trouble being picked up by studios, which I don't really find surprising considering the topic of the movie, especially because these type of movies were pretty new back then. Like today we have a bunch of these movies all the time, but at the time, think about it, there was like nothing quite like it. And if you read the script, and you just like hear the concept of it, especially being really child-centric, I feel like people were a little bit iffy about that. The director of the film, Richard Donner, said that the original title was to be The Antichrist, which is pretty straightforward. It pretty much is cutting right to the chase, telling you what the movie's about, essentially, you know, since the kid is the Antichrist. But many producers and heads of studios, such as Alan Ladd Jr., who was the head of Fox Studios at the time, agreed that he would do the film if the title was changed and if it was marketed less of a horror movie and more of like a mystery thriller. And if you watch the movie, it almost is at times like a mystery thriller. You're trying to figure out things like these characters along the way, almost like a whodunit, but not in a whodunit type of way, more in like a devil type of way. So yeah, this movie was not going to get picked up if it did not get the mystery suspense vibes. If it was going to be full-on horror, then it probably wouldn't have made it to our screens today. And this movie, as it was being made, actually had a ton of other conspiracies and a lot of really bad luck in production. It almost reminds me of The Exorcist, which had way too much bad luck when it was being filmed and people thought there was some curse around. And I think even though these movies had the quote-unquote curse, I feel like it ultimately helped them because people went out to see these movies. It's like everybody was talking about it, so people wanted to find out for themselves, and that obviously happened with this movie. But just to go into a little bit of how the production was plagued by a series of strange coincidences, there was a lot of really bad luck, especially with lightning. So Gregory Peck was flying to London, and Gregory Peck stars as the main character of the movie, the father of this child. When he was flying to London, his plane was struck by lightning, and then that sucks. But then a few weeks later, the film's executive producer, Mace Neufeld, was also in a flight to LA that was struck by lightning. And then there was another case of lightning with the producer of the film, Harvey Bernhard, which had a close call with lightning while working on the film while shooting in Rome. So it happened all over different places. It's a lot of weird coincidences. You can make whatever you want out of it, to be honest, but I just think it's really weird and creepy, and so a lot of bad, you know, unfortunate coincidences with the cast members, with family losses and just other things like that. And you know, since it is a horror movie, every single time something like that happens, they automatically connect it to the movie they're working on. And some people who were brought on to work on the film at first didn't want to do it because it was associated with the devil and whatnot. So there was a whole lot of stuff going on with the movie, but at the end of the day, it was done, it was made, and it was a huge success for everybody. And I just want to jump right into my thoughts of this movie. So I really like the movie. Actually, I grew up watching the remake more than this one. I didn't end up seeing the original until a little bit after, but one of the first horror movies that I ever remember watching when I was younger was The Omen, but the one with Julia Stiles in it. I'm not even sure what year it came out in, maybe the early 2000s, but yeah, that's how I kind of grew up with that story. But I know The Omen as well has like multiple sequels, has the remake, etc. And I'm curious if you guys have seen more of those movies or if you've just seen the 1976 version that we're talking about. But I think this movie is awesome. I think it's really good at building that suspense, which goes back to the idea that the movie was not going to be made if it didn't have that factor in it. But it's really cool how we're like given these little clues, these people pop in and out, giving us riddles essentially, such as the priest, and we're just supposed to figure it out along Gregory Peck's character, the father figure. And I just think that this movie does a really good job at establishing tone and keeping the tone going for the entire time, because I think this movie, if it had even just an ounce of comedy, I think it would have been done with. And the movie is really good at keeping like a straight face the whole time, because there's a lot of things happening that are pretty ridiculous if you really think about it. We have this like priest man who just pops in and out and gives the main character riddles to solve instead of just being straight on and telling him. We have like a literal murderous child. Like the things that are happening in this movie I feel like could easily be made fun of, and you know, you can make a whole entire movie that way, but I think the way the movie did it, by just literally, like I said, staying with a straight face, was the way to go, because it, like, as I'm watching it, I'm serious, I'm like actually invested in the story, and I think it works really well. I really want to talk about the cinematography of the movie, because I think it's so good at making you feel creepy and weird, and like there's something iffy going on here. There's a lot of shots that just feel disoriented and like they shouldn't be together. There's a lot of editing too that's done that just edits scenes together where like you're looking at something and you're wondering what that's supposed to be. They do that a lot with the scenes with the dogs, and it just makes it so creepy. The use of close-ups in this movie as well is really brilliant, because it like just gets you into the eyes of the devil essentially, or that's what the movie wants you to believe. I also really like that there's characters in the movie that don't know what's going on, but you know from the beginning. Like, I'm pretty sure, or at least I don't know how it was at the time when it came out, but knowing what the plot is, knowing what the movie's about, like, you know essentially that this little kid is bad luck and like it's gonna just get worse and worse. So there's a sense of eeriness, a sense of creepiness, especially when the kid is around his mother and we see her downfall and the things she goes through, and just other characters in the movie in general, but especially her, she's the one that we most pay attention to, that really doesn't know the full picture, because the dad doesn't really know the full picture either, but he's like aware of the lie essentially, because the mother doesn't know that this child is not her own. But my point in saying this is that the audience member from the beginning knows how wrong and how creepy this is. Like, even from the scene when, at the very beginning, when the priest and the nun give the child to Gregory Peck's character, like, I believe there's a line that says, like, God has granted you a wish, or, like, it's something related to, like, this is basically God's blessing, here you go. But, like, the way the music is in the back, the lightning striking, which, again, the lightning, remember the real life scenarios? But basically, the way it all works together, like, it makes you feel like this is the creepiest thing happening, and you know it's gonna be bad for the characters. And we're not going through this journey with them exactly, even though we're figuring out information along with Gregory Peck's character, but we're almost like overseeing the situation, and it's like really scary and eerie to just watch everything, you know, go down. Especially seeing how happy the family is, how everything is, you know, all good and dandy, and it's all just gonna go downhill. I also just want to say I love the acting in the movie. I think the acting in the movie is really great, especially Gregory Peck's character. He is like the leading man in the movie. He's really good, but I just love the acting of the little kid too. It's like he doesn't even do much. He just has these like moments where he just is looking straight at something, or he smiles, and it's the creepiest thing ever, and I think that worked perfectly. My favorite thing though about this movie is the score. I'm gonna say this, I think this is the best horror score, and there's a lot of good ones, but this one's freaking awesome. And the score of the film was composed by Jerry Goldsmith, and I believe he received an Oscar for this score. The score is so good because it features like some religious, I don't even know what it is, like a Latin chant in the back. Like, it features some vocals like that are very religious and ominous and ominous to hear, and then you have like the really creepy stuff. I think the movie doesn't show as many creepy things as you might think it does, but you get so scared, or at least I get so scared because of that damn music. Like, it just builds up. The movie is scary because of the music. I will forever believe that. I think it's one of the coolest score ever. Like, the theme is so scary, and it plays in the right moments, and it just builds moments up, and it's so freaking cool. I also want to say that I really like the addition of the character, like the photographer character. I won't get really too much into it right now because I'm not going to spoil until the very end, but I just really like his character. I like that entire aspect of the story. For the pacing of the movie, I think there's a solid 30 minutes that I think could have been cut or maybe could have been done a different way. It's essentially related to when the dad and the photographer go to find answers about the curse and like about this child and stuff. And although it's very important for us to get answers, I feel like that entire scene didn't give us a lot of stuff because the entire concept is really obscure and weird, and it's like, what the heck is going on in this family? But I think for the most part that whole aspect slowed the movie down a little bit for me because I think it was building up so well and it didn't really give us much. Like, it gave us a few creepy scenes, a few creepy moments, and yeah, not really much in my opinion. I feel like it was something that could have easily been done somewhere else, still in London and stuff. And that's the other thing about this movie. A lot of times there's characters and things that pop up that I feel like, yeah, I guess it moved the story along, but if you took them out, it would have just kept going in the same direction, and I think that happens a little bit sometimes, especially towards the end of the movie and stuff. And the deaths in this movie, the kills, they're actually pretty freaking cool, in my opinion. Like, they're pretty scary. There's definitely one towards the end of the movie involving a head being chopped off that I was like, I just didn't expect that one. But there is a death, which, if you know, you know, related to somebody getting killed and they had enough time to move out of it and not get killed. But alas, it's a horror movie. People have to be dumb to exist in horror movies, clearly. And I think my favorite part about this movie, honestly, is the way you can interpret this movie in two completely different ways. And I didn't realize this until I just rewatched it to make this video for you guys, that this movie doesn't really confirm anything at all. It never tells us if this is really reality, if like this is really the antichrist, if this is specifically the devil's kid. Like, it doesn't ever say this is right and this is wrong. And you can honestly view this movie as a dad going insane. Towards the end, it's almost like a man's descent into madness, and that's really cool. And I'm gonna dive right into spoilers because I think this territory lends itself into spoilers, and I don't want to spoil too much for people who haven't seen it. But what I'm really referring to is how at the end, he's basically supposed to kill the kid. And he doesn't want to at first. He tells the photographer, man, I don't want to do this, like, this is wrong, like, it's not the kid's fault. And then the photographer's like, no, I'm gonna kill him then, because it's like, we did all of this and for what? And that's essentially when he, like, gets his head chopped off, which was freaking crazy. I was like, damn, they did that? Okay. But then I think the movie just really gets you to fear for this man's descent, and it's almost like making the audience more scared of this kid who's about to be killed, this man who's about to kill his quote-unquote son, than the antichrist. And I don't know if anybody else views it that way, but you know, I just think it's cool that the movie does that. Like, you're not as scared of him being the antichrist, you're more scared of what this man is gonna do or what the situation is gonna come to. And that last scene where he's like about to kill the kid, it's like, what is he gonna do? Like, I was anxious to see what was gonna happen, and I think that entire way the movie does that is super cool. And with that, I feel like you could really interpret this movie as a man going insane, and he's just believing all these conspiracies and all these crazy people by him. Because, again, nothing is confirmed. We don't really know the thing about the priest. I think it's really cool if you see it that way, especially because you never see the kid doing anything. Like, it's only other people doing things. So I think it's cool. I can view the movie as, yeah, he's the antichrist, this is definitely a devil movie, or this is just a movie about a man who's gone insane and needs psychotic help. Which, both of them, I think you can give me evidence for both and I'll believe both of them. And I don't know if that was the original director's intention and the writer, but I just think it's still cool when you can have a movie have multiple interpretations and different ideas and stuff like that. So I really love this movie, and I think one of the best movies from the 70s. Is honestly one of my favorite subgenres in horror is like religious horror movies, especially like with this type of especially with this type of idea, like exorcisms, possessions, like the devil, like these type of horror movies. And I think this is one of the best ones. This is one of my personal favorites, and thank you all so much for watching today's review. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys continue to have a spooky Sunday and a great rest of your day. Thank you guys so much for continuing to watch 31 Nights of Horror, and I'm really excited for you guys to see what's coming next. Remember to let me know down below what you think about this movie, give the video a like, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed for daily horror movie videos in the month of October, and just movie videos, live streams, all movie related stuff in general. So thank you all once again so much for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow for the next 31 Nights of Horror. Bye everyone!